Good evening, everybody. This is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast, coming to you from the studios of VK3 CSJ in Narre South. We're broadcasting on prime frequency, 3541 kilohertz in the 80 metre amateur radio band, and also by the Melbourne television repeater, VK3 RTV Digital Channel 1 in full HD, also by my Discord channel in HD stream, and also on my YouTube channel, which you can find if you type in VK3CSJ in the YouTube search engine and look for the live indication, and hopefully we'll get through the hour without the modem falling over. Anyway, good evening everyone. This is the last broadcast for 2024. And we shall resume in 4 weeks' time on the 24th of January. So a deserved break, some might think or might say. But yes, decide to have 4 weeks this time. But of course, during that time, the Wireless Institute of Australia will continue its weekly broadcast. And I will also continue the broadcast on 160 metres on Sunday morning on 1825 for the broadcast, as well as by the repeater on Sunday mornings. So I'll be still doing that. But the ASV broadcast here, I shall take a sabbatical of 4 weeks, which will be nice to get back to a normal Friday night routine. Anyway, a pleasant good evening to you all. I hope everybody's in good health. Hopefully the present bushfire situation happening out there in Western Victoria isn't too much of a worry for listeners tonight. Certainly the afternoon sky here had definite discoloration due to the bushfire smoke. So yes, not good at all for this stage of the year. It's not looking good, because there's going to be certainly a few more hot days. I think next week there's another 40 degree day coming up. Anyway, yeah, all right. Okay, we've got a few things tonight to finish off the year. We've also got a report from Tamitha Scove, a latest solar report. That was released about 19 hours ago, so that's fairly current. I think it's her predictions are out till at least Monday, so it makes it fairly current. All right, let's kick off with what I normally do is for those folks that are tuning in for the first time. Oh, there is an email address if anybody wishes to send signal reports and the like. VK3EKH@gmail.com. VK3EKH@gmail.com. And I better make sure that. Oh yeah, there it is. Hang on, just make sure that's open. Yep, just doing that now. The Discord. If you haven't signed up to Discord, you have to type in Discord in the search engine and register on site. It's not you don't have to pay anything. It's just a free registration. There's a few things to go through, but once the registration is confirmed, I provide a link to getting to the astronomy chat room and also the associated HD stream. And like I say every week, the HD stream that Discord provides, it's not a recorded one, unlike YouTube. But what it's good for is that it is less than a second delay with what you're hearing on 80 meters. For example, you tune to the Discord video stream, and it's about a second delay. Unlike YouTube, it's up to 20 seconds, so which can be a bit disconcerting for folks that are listening here on 80 Live and wanting to catch up with the visual side of the broadcast. Otherwise, you can always tune into VK3RTV, which is the alternative. RTV is located just behind the police academy on an old Melbourne water tower, and it broadcasts on 445.5 megahertz DVB-T2 in HD, 100 watts vertical polarization. It covers the greater metropolitan area down to Turadin and out to the other side of Mount Dandenong and across to Ballarat. It's got reasonable coverage. So if you want more information about VK3RTV and how to look for it and what set-top box you need, there's two places you can go to. Just type in vk3rtv.com, vk3rtv.com, the dedicated homepage. But there's also other information you'll find on Amateur Radio Victoria's website. If you go to Amateur Radio Victoria, there's a dedicated page to RTV there too. Amateur Radio Victoria has in the past sponsored and supported the ATV repeater with funding, which is very good. So it keeps it going, more or less. All right. Where was I? Let me see. Oh yes, okay. Actually, I'll go to the usual blurb. Where is that? It's on the inside cover. Okay. This has been updated, although there's a few things that still could change. The Astronomical Society of Victoria, founded in 1922, comprises over 1,600 members. Actually, that's not the updated one. The book is here somewhere. Where's the updated one? There it is. Sorry about that, ladies and gents. It's live here, but I do prefer a bit more accurate information here. There it is. I thought it was the inside cover of the back cover. Alrighty then. Carefully balancing the book on the mixer here. Alright. The Astronomical Society of Victoria was founded in 1922 and comprises over 1,800 members throughout Victoria, the other states of Australia and overseas. Membership of the Society is open to all persons with an interest in astronomy. The Society's objectives are to encourage the study and practice of astronomy, to disseminate the knowledge of the science, and to provide greater facilities for the study among its members. Monthly meetings are usually held on the second Wednesday of each month, but in January it'll be held on the Saturday night. Meetings start at 8 p.m. at the Mullier Hall National Herbarium in Burwood Avenue, Melbourne, near the Melbourne Observatory, which is located adjacent to the Shrine of Remembrance. Meetings are also live streamed for those who cannot attend, which you'll find on the YouTube channel, the dedicated ASV YouTube channel, and also on the Facebook page. Parking is available in Burwood Avenue, Dallas Brooks Drive, and the surrounding streets. Admission is free and visitors are most welcome. Privileges of membership include the right to borrow books, periodicals, and other publications from the Society's extensive library located at the Melbourne Observatory, receipt of the ASV's magazine Crux, containing articles, news, observing notes, and the like, and the free provision of the Astronomical Yearbook. Access is available to telescopes on members' nights held regularly at the Melbourne Observatory and after the monthly meetings, weather permitting. These instruments include the Society's 300mm equatorial reflector and 300mm portable reflector. There's also a 200mm refractor managed by the Royal Botanic Gardens, and a recently restored photoheliograph are also housed at the observatory and are accessible as well. The Society also has a number of 200mm reflectors available for short period loan. A member can gain practical experience in use of one of these telescopes after deciding whether or not to buy one of their own. Regular Society meetings are held at the Morley Community Village at Bignell Road, Bentley East. Members are encouraged to use the Society's instruments located there in order to gain first-hand experience in telescope use. Members are also encouraged to make use of the Society's country property located near Heathcote, some 90-minute drive north of Melbourne. It provides dark sky sight suitable for astrophotography. There is a range of instruments available for members to use, the larger two only with appropriate training, which range from 300mm to 1000mm in aperture. Also located on the site is a fully steerable 8.5 metre radio telescope, fully steerable, which members can access with involvement in the radio astronomy section. Members are encouraged to make and use telescopes. Advice and help on both matters are provided willingly to newcomers desiring to do the same. Instrument making is only one of the several common interest activities catered for within the Society. Other areas of interest that members can participate in include deep sky observing, astrophotography, lunar and planetary observing, auroral, meteor, comet, radio astronomy, computing, cosmology and astrophysics, historical studies and research in astronomy in general. Contact details for various section directors can be found in the ASV website, on the ASV's website at www.asv.org.au. Further information may be obtained by visiting the ASV website, as just mentioned, and notification of events are given in the Crux Extra bulletins, which are sent out via email to members every other week. Please note that the ASV will conform to all government health directives. Thus, ASV events may be required to be cancelled, moved or postponed. If you wish to write a letter, physical letter to the ASV, the mailing address is the Secretary, Astronomical Society of Victoria, GPO Box 1059, Melbourne, Victoria 3001. And again, the ASV website is www.asv.org.au. And all you need to know will be available there, including joining the Society, which is done by PayPal these days. The next Astro Talk is slated for January the 8th. There's no advertised speaker at the moment, but it would be, if you're interested in attending the ASV meeting, certainly keep an eye on the calendar, the ASV calendar, which you can find under the Events tab on the main homepage. But it is slated for, hang on, let me just read this again, because January is usually a Saturday. Let me just double check this. Yes, I'm looking at January 2025. All right, I may need to confirm that at some stage. Yeah, if I'm looking at the ASV calendar, it's saying that the Astro Talk, or the meeting, the monthly meeting, is slated for the 8th of January, Wednesday. But normally it is a Saturday, which allows for country members to come up. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. That might be a calendar needs to be updated. Anyway, all right. Just keep an eye on the ASV calendar for events that occurs, or get in contact with ASV. But I will be back doing the broadcast on the 24th. For me, this session will continue the 24th of January. All right, enough of that. Summer solstice tomorrow, gentlemen, ladies. That's happening tomorrow. For those in Melbourne, 21st of December at 8:20 p.m. 8:20 p.m. is when we start to head back around the sun. It is the longest day tomorrow, the longest daylight hours, which, let me see if I click there, will that tell me it? Just checking 5. I'm looking at, oh, here we are. This is it, 14 hours. It's about 14 hours, 47 minutes will be the approximate day length, daylight day. So good time to be partying tomorrow night to all evening hours. And it should be good temperature tomorrow too. It's 21 degrees max apparently. Temperature currently is 18.9 degrees, so that cool change has definitely come through. Anyway, tomorrow is the summer solstice. That's where the Earth's position in relation to our sun starts to go back the other way and our days start to shorten again. Whoa. All right. Now, here's a little article that popped off on the astronomy.com website. It's I think it's an Ask Astro article. And I think there's a little image here which I downloaded associated with this article. So let me just see if I can bring that up quickly. Some of you will recognize this. I might bring up my little insert image as well. There I am. So you can see that I'm not falling asleep. Okay. What happened to the jettisoned Apollo lunar modules? Have you ever wondered about that? All but one of the Apollo's programs used lunar modules either crashed into the moon's surface or burned up in Earth's atmosphere, it seems. Apollo 10 lunar module Snoopy is still out there, drifting aimlessly around the solar system, waiting for some future exo-archaeologist to snap it up for display at the Smithsonian. The mission was designed as a rehearsal for the main event on the moon, but it set records of its own. History glazes over Apollo 10 because of the significance of what followed. However, the crew completed the same tasks as Apollo 11, minus landing on the moon. And they used Snoopy, the lunar module, as well as Charlie Brown, the command module, to travel farther and faster than many humans have since. During the mission, Snoopy was jettisoned into space as planned and should have entered orbit around the sun. However, its location remains a mystery despite efforts by amateur astronomers to search for it using the latest known 1969 orbital coordinates. They identified a number of target sites, but so far they've been unsuccessful. Interestingly, at least some of the other landers' exact lunar impact sites, including Apollo 11's Eagle, are also a mystery that future space explorers someday might find and excavate. There was a nice quick article, that's how I like them. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. And which one is that? No, I'm just getting my, there we are, that's me. I just wanted to get, no. And no, just, where is it? I'm trying to find my ID that I have up on the screen. And it is there somewhere. I've lost it. It's because I did that. There we go, found it. All right, sorry about that. All right. Now, next we have an interesting little article If I can just find it. Oh, yes. Okay. And there's some pictures associated with this item as well, which I'll just queue up. The first one, black and white image. All right. Bit of history here. Pearl Young, the first woman to work in a technical role at NASA, overcame barriers and raised hell. Young persisted in the face of adversity. Her legacy continues today, but there is much work still to be done. And I'll just bring up the picture here of the 4 young ladies. And again, I'll bring up my insert. There we go. All right. Pearl is the second lady in from the left in that image there. Back to the article. 13 years before any other woman joined the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or the NACA, which was NASA's predecessor, in a technical role, a young lab assistant named Pearl Young was making waves in the agency. Her legacy as an outspoken and persistent advocate for herself and her team would pave the way for women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics for decades to come. The author says, "My interest in Young's story is grounded in my own identity as a woman," this is the author, "in a STEM field." She says, and the author is Caitlin Miller. She says, "I find strength in sharing the stories of women who made lasting impacts in STEM. I am the director of the NASA-funded North Dakota Space Grant Consortium, where we aim to foster an open and welcoming environment in STEM. Young's story is one of the persistent through setback advocacy for herself and others, and building a community of support." Young was a scientist, an educator, a technical editor, and a researcher. Born in 1895, she was no stranger to the barriers that women faced at the time. In the early 20th century, college degrees in STEM fields were considered less suited for women, and graduates with these degrees were considered unconventional women. Professors who agreed to mentor women in advanced STEM fields in the 1940s and 1950s were often accused of communism. In 1956, the National Science Foundation even published an article with the title, "Women Are Not for Engineering." Despite society's sexist standards, Young earned a bachelor degree in 1919 with a triple major in physics, mathematics and chemistry with honours from the University of North Dakota. She then began her decade-long career in STEM. Despite the hostile culture for women, Young successfully navigated multiple technical roles at the NACA. With her varied expertise, she worked in several divisions: physics, instrumentation, and aerodynamics, and soon noticed a trend across the agency. Many of the reports her colleagues wrote weren't well written enough to be useful. In a 1959 interview, Young spoke of her start at the NACA. "Those were fruitful years," she said. "I was interested in good writing and suggested that the need for a technical editor. The engineers lacked the time to make readable reports," she said. 3 years after voicing her suggestion, Young was reassigned to the newly created role of Assistant Technical Editor in the publications section in 1935. After 6 years in that role, Young earned the title of Associate Technical Editor in 1941. In 1941, the NACA established the Aircraft Engine Research Laboratory, now known as NASA, Glenn Research Center in Cleveland. This new field centered neater, experienced employees. So 2 years later, NACA leadership invited Young to lead a new technical editing section there. And here is another picture of the team. There we are, these ones here. Oop, hang on just a sec. It was at the Aircraft Engine Research Laboratory that Young published her most notable technical work, the Style Manual for Engineering Authors, in 1943. NASA History Office then referred to Young as the architect of the NACA Technical Reports System. Young's Style Manual allowed the agency to communicate technological progress around the globe. This manual included specific formatting rules for technical writing, which would increase consistency for engineers and researchers reporting their data, which would increase consistency, I think I said that right, for engineers and researchers reporting their data with experimental results. It was essential for efficient World War II operations and was translated into multiple languages. But it wasn't until after this publication that Young finally received the promotion to full technical editor, 11 years after she voiced the need for the role at the agency. She was the first person to hold this role, but she had to start at the assistant level, then move up to associate before receiving the full technical editor designation. Perhaps the most noteworthy piece of Young's story is her character. While advocating herself and her colleagues, Young often had to challenge authority. She stood up for her editing section when male supervisors wrongfully accused them of making mistakes. She wrote official proposals to properly classify her office in the research division at the Aircraft Engineering Research Laboratory. She regularly acknowledged the contributions of her entire team for the achievements they shared. She also secured extra personnel to lessen unbearable workloads and wrote official memorandums to ensure that her colleagues earned rightful promotions. Young often referred to these actions as raising hell. The archival documents I've analysed, the author here, indicate that Young's performance at the NACA was exemplary throughout her career. In 1967, she was awarded the University of North Dakota's prestigious CWEX Award, CWEX Award, in recognition of her professional achievements and service to the university. In 1995 and again in 2014, NASA Langley Research Center dedicated a theatre in her name. The new theatre is located in NASA's Integrated Engineering Services Building. In 2015, Young was inducted into the inaugural NASA NACA Langley Hall of Honor. I was about to say horror. Hall of Honor, but throughout her career, not all of her colleagues shared this complimentary view of Young and her work. One of Young's supervisors in 1930 thought it necessary to assess her attitude and fitness as an employee in her progress report, and justified his position by typing these additional words into the document himself. Later that year, Young requested time off, likely for the holiday season, prompting a different supervisor to draft an official memorandum to the engineer in charge, a position akin to today's NASA's Center Director. He referred to Young's attitude in requesting to the use of her vacation days. And there's actually a photo, kind of a photocopy of this letter. A little bit hard to read that, but I won't worry about it. Continuing on to the final part of this article, women not welcome in STEM. While sexism in STEM has shifted in forms over time, gender-based inequities still exist. Women in STEM frequently confront microaggressions and marginalisation and hostile work environments, including unequal pay, lack of recognition and additional service expectations. Women often lack supportive social networks and encounter other systematic barriers to career advancement, such as not being recognised as an authority figure, or the double standard of being perceived as too aggressive instead of as a leader. Women of colour, women who belong to the LGBTQ+ communities, and women who have one or more disabilities face even more barriers rooted in these intersectional identities. One of the ways to combat these inequities is to call attention to systematic barriers by sharing stories of women who persist in STEM, women like Pearl Young. Yes, so you'll find that on astronomy.com under the news tab, I think it is. Righto, now there's, in following up with that, there's another more interesting, well, not more interesting, but another similar kind of story. And I'm just trying to find my vMix program. There it is. And I'll go back to that camera. Yeah, this next article is courtesy of... Oops, what just happened then? Oh, Facebook, don't do this to me. Oh, you're such a damn nuisance when you do that. Oh, I don't know why it does that. I try to keep something open and I go away from the page like I'm doing, and then moments later I come back to it, and as soon as I click on the page, it just wants to be a pain. It just goes, it resets itself. I know what I'm looking for. It was somewhere down here. Just bear with me for a sec. I know how I can quickly find this. Somebody made a comment, and where is it now? You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast. And I am trying to find this one here. Okay, we found it. Thanks to Kate Green for making a comment, because it was only that is the way I found it. Let's hope my next article, which is also on Facebook, doesn't disappear. So I'm just making sure that page is working while I'm doing this. All right. Now, this is a similar sort of theme, this article, but very current. This is published 10th of December 2024. 100th woman in space. Emily Calandri, I think that's how you pronounce her surname, stands up to small men on the internet. She says, I should have expected this. The astronaut and MIT engineer's monumental milestone was marred by misogyny instead of being on cloud nine. She says, I'm crying in my seat. Emily Calandri made history on November 22, 2024, when she became the 100th woman to go into space. But thanks to small men on the internet, the monumental milestone was marred by misogyny, Calandri told Live Science. This is something that I had been working towards for 2 decades, she said. The astronaut, MIT engineer, best-selling author, TV host, and STEM influencer told Live Science. It's been a dream of mine for the longest time, and in every moment leading up to me being in space, I was nervous that it wasn't actually going to happen. Then once we got into space, all of these emotions came welling up, like I did it. I'm here. I'm in space. Footage of the historic launch led by aerospace company Blue Origin was shared by the company to social media, but it wasn't long before the misogynistic, objectifying comments began to flood in. And this all happened, she says, as I was flying home after experiencing the most perfect, wonderful, dream-achieving experience of my life. As she wrote, in a post, on Instagram, I see. Instead of being on cloud nine, she says, I'm crying in my seat, staring out the window because, of course, this happened. Of course, I should have expected this, she reckons. In the post, she said that the hordes of internet trolls made sexual comments about her voice and reaction, leading to Blue Origin to take down the video. She says, I didn't expect to see so many people really mocking a reaction to a dream like that, she said. I got to experience something that only 100th women in history have seen, and 700 humans in history of this planet. Out of the 100 billion humans that have lived, of course, I'm going to have a pretty extreme reaction to that, she says. However, Calandria has not let this deter her from sharing her excitement. She put the video back up on the social media in a post that has received over 6 million views across TikTok and Instagram as of Friday, December the 6th. The only thing in this world that I can compare it, the space flight to, is literally having my children, she said. I'd always dreamed of being a mum, and to have this baby in your belly for 9 months, she says, you love it. You see it on the sonogram, and then you finally get to meet them. Spaceflight is still a heavily male-dominated industry, according to World Space Flight Statistics Trackers and United States Air Force definitions. 714 people have been to space as of December the 6th, 2014. Only 14% have been female. For these big dreams, you really have to want them. And they are not just going to come to you. You have to fight for them. You have to risk a lot of things for them. And Calandria said, you have to sacrifice certain things. And I think that grit and that resilience to failure is one of the best life skills that anyone can learn. And there was a image here of her just as she stepped out of the capsule and was completely elated from the experience. So I haven't seen the video in question, but I should see if I can go and find it. But anyway, so yeah, women are still facing a lot of hassles in trying to get ahead these days. Now, it's a bit of a female theme tonight, let's just go straight into Tamitha Scove's latest report. And I think that's all queued up and ready to go. Let's see if we can just press this button and see what Tamitha's on about.
We have some gorgeous eye candy, a solar storm fizzle, and some massive far-side eruptions. These stories and more are in this week's Spotlight. Space weather this week has given us a lot of eye candy. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, we've been watching a number of regions, including 3917, 3924, and 3920. All of these have been giving us little pops and whistles in terms of solar flares, but not any super big eruptions. In fact, region 3920 on the 14th fires off this kind of stealthy solar storm. It's really hard to see, but it begins to destabilize this filament, this big long worm-like filament, as you can see here. When we take a look in coronagraphs for this eruption, though, what we see is a very big but slow-moving halo, and this thing is actually Earth-directed. So we are watching this thing kind of going, well, it's going to be really slow eruption, but then region 3924, as it continues its little activity, it then pops off what looks like could be a solar storm eruption. You see this here. It lights up this whole segment in here, but when we look in coronagraphs, we don't really see anything. So we think it's probably a failed solar storm launch. Still, however, it begins to really destabilize this filament, and then whoosh, do you see that? It launches, but it also lights up these old regions again. So there's this whole huge thing by the 15th that launches partially Earth-directed with a lot of material. So when we take a look in coronagraphs, you can see this massive partial halo, and we weren't even sure this thing was going to be Earth-directed at all. But remember, there was a solar storm in front of that. So believe it or not, when this actually launched, we ended up getting a solar storm, but you might not have even noticed. We had the solar storm hit yesterday, but it ended up being very much a fizzle because the magnetic field was oriented the wrong way. So sadly, even though it was a really strong solar storm, there wasn't much aurora that was produced by it. Still, if you saw this back here, did you see that big blast? Let me back it up a little bit. You can watch it. Whoosh, do you see that back and forth? Watch this thing kind of evacuate out like that. Boom, right there. That was a big far-sighted eruption. Look at this monster. This thing is a very intense solar storm, likely from old regions 3905 and 06 that we'll be talking about here coming up shortly. But after that blast, things really quieted down for a bit. We did have another failed filament launch right here. You can see this. This was definitely a fizzle. We basically had to wait for region 3905. You can watch it right on the boom, right there on the east limb. That fires off a gorgeous eruption, and that causes a secondary eruption. When we look in coronagraphs, sadly, neither of these are Earth-directed solar storms. So, once again, gorgeous eye candy, but nothing Earth-directed for aurora photographers. However, as we continue watching the far side, we had this massive solar storm eruption. Look at this huge halo. This thing was so incredibly large. As you can see, it made a gorgeous eruption clear in the C3 field of view, way far out. This shock and the speed of this solar storm is incredibly fast. Thank goodness it was far-sighted, but it sure makes us wonder what's coming around the bend, because it does look, as we see these regions rotating into view now, we do expect to see more big solar flares and big solar storms coming in this next week, so be sure to keep your eyes on the sun. So what else does our sun have in store for us this week? Well, we can no longer use stereo A imagery to look at the far side of the sun, because stereo A is looking at the same side of the sun as we are. So in this case, we're using the NISP gong imagery of about 2 weeks ago to get an idea of what type of active regions are still lurking on the sun's far side. And as we set this in motion, you can immediately see region 3905 and 06. These were big flare players the last rotation when we saw them, and they are definitely causing havoc on the sun's far side now. In fact, these regions are the ones that fired at least one of those big far side eruptions, and they are going to be rotating back into Earth view here over the next couple days. But they're not the only players. As you can see, we've got several others that we'll be seeing on the far side as we take a look at the gong helioseismology far-sighted monitor. Now you can see as we set this in motion, here's these regions as they were beginning to rotate to the sun's far side, and what we're looking for on the far side, which is this region in here, we're looking for these white dots to appear. So you can watch region 3905 definitely surviving their far side passage, but also region 3912 and 3910. In fact, as we take a look, if I back this up just a little bit, you can see a place here where we've got region 3912 right there. Look at this. We definitely have a big region underneath 3912. In fact, this might be the region that caused that massive far side halo, that beautiful symmetric thing that we saw. So in about a week's time, we're going to see this region rotate back into Earth view, and along with region 3905 and 06, this means we're going to have a big chance for big, maybe possibly X-class flares again, as well as a lot of solar flux and radio noise, and of course the chance for really big Earth-directed solar storms. So aurora photographers and everyone else, man, all eyes need to be on the sun over this next week. Switching to our moon, we are now passing through the third quarter phase on our way to a new moon, and by the 25th, the moon will only be about 27% illuminated. So you night sky watchers, if you want to catch those dim objects in the sky, well, now is your perfect chance. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are now calming down from that solar storm fizzle and that filament launch that is missing Earth right now, but it is giving us some fast solar wind. So at high latitudes, NOAA is expecting unsettled conditions with up to about a 30% chance of minor storms over the next day or two. Then by the weekend, things should be pretty much settled down. And then we're kind of in hurry up and wait mode because we're not expecting all that much. We don't have any more fast solar wind on the way. We are kind of in the wait mode to see whether or not we're going to get any big solar storms because those new regions rotating into Earth view. At mid-latitudes, the outlook is about the same. We're expecting unsettled conditions, even with this fast solar wind, with about a 25% chance of active conditions over the next day or two. Then things really begin to quiet down. But again, these forecasts may not last all that long because we do have those big solar storm producers, and they could change this forecast very quickly for aurora photographers. Now, switching to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, we are sitting well into the triple digits. In fact, by the end of the week, we could be up into the 200s when it comes to solar flux. And this is because of those returning regions 3905, 06, and possibly 3912 that could be very big flare players. So expect to see that solar flux rise. We're also sitting at moderate noise on the dayside radio bands, but that could also rise as we move into the next upcoming week. NOAA's giving us about a 40% chance of M-class flares. This is at the R1 to R2 level radio blackout level, and also about a 5% chance of X-class flares at an R3 level radio blackout. But again, this is likely going to rise over this next week as those bigger flare players rotate into Earth view. So everybody hold on to your hats because it could get pretty noisy. Now, switching to our radiation storm and polar aviation outlook over the coming week, everything is in the green this week when it comes to radiation storms. We're sitting at the D1 normal range. This is at flight level 360 for you aviators. It's also the S0 quiet range for everyone else. Right now, NOAA is giving us only about a 5% chance of a radiation storm at the S1 to S2 level, and this is likely going to be true for the rest of this week. And this is because we don't really have any big flare players in Earth view, and even when those returning regions rotate into Earth view, not quite sure they're going to give us all that much while they're on the east limb, but expect over next week this risk to rise quite a bit as those regions start rotating closer to center disk. So you aviators, and this does include flight crew and you frequent flyers, pay attention to those ICAO advisories in the next few days and over this next week because these conditions likely are going to change. So the space weather this week is full of a lot of eye candy. We have had a lot of eruptions that haven't been Earth directed, but we do have the chance for that to change here over this next week as new regions rotate into Earth view from the sun's far side, and they have been launching some whoppers. So aurora photographers, don't worry about the fizzle that we've been having. Just kind of sit tight here over this next week, and we could get some bigger storms on the way. Now, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, enjoy the quiet right now on the dayside radio bands because this is likely going to change over this next week as these big regions rotate back into Earth view and we start getting the big flares like big radio blackouts again. So just expect that the noise on the bands is going to rise over the next few days and into next week, and just kind of hunker down. And now you GPS users, well, the same kind of thing. Enjoy the relative quiet right now because things are likely going to change in about a week. And as long as you're vigilant near dawn and near dusk, your GPS reception, at least over the next few days, should be pretty top notch. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
All right. Thank you, Tamitha. Very good. All right, looks like we're certainly going to have some very interesting days coming up with the solar flare activity. So for us amateurs that rely on good HF communications, It looks like we're going to have a few possible blackouts that might occur. Not sure why my camera is focusing on the background. It should be on me. That's better. All right. Thanks, Timothy. And she regularly puts out video reports. So if you want to catch up with any reports from Tamitha over the next 4 weeks, since I won't be here, just type in Tamitha Scove or Space Weather Woman. That's the main thing, Space Weather Woman, excuse me, on YouTube. And you'll find her dedicated channel, which is where I pick up all her video from. So there you go. All right. Now, I've had a quick look at email, and there's just one email that's come through. G'day, Andrew. Checking in on 80 metres. Good signal on 80, he reports. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you too. And g'day to Wayne if you're listening as well. And I note that there's only one person on the Discord realm. G'day, Steve. Yeah, it is a bit lonely out there. I don't know why the chat room is so empty. Maybe it's because it's Christmas. Maybe everybody's trying to catch that last train to... What's that song? Last train to Georgia. That's it. Anyway, that's fine. All right. Now, I've got 10 minutes, so let's see if I can squeeze in just a couple of more articles. Let's see. SpaceX. All right. There's a photograph here of this probe. I think that they're going to launch. I'll just use this one here because it looks better. Riders in the Sky is ready to fly is this title of this art. Well, actually, the title is SpaceX will launch Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost lander to the moon in mid-January with these 10 NASA payloads. I won't go into the details on the 10 NASA payloads because I'll be here for another hour. Suffice to say that this article is courtesy of space.com. I'll bring up my little insert. I think it's always good to try and remember to do that. Hang on a sec. There I am. Okay. Firefly Aerospace first mission to the moon is nearly ready to fly. The company's Blue Ghost lunar lander arrived at NASA's Space Kennedy Center in Florida on Monday for the integration with the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket that will launch the robotic probe, as well as the private Japanese moon lander Resilience to space. Blue Ghost Mission 1, named Ghost Riders in the Sky, is scheduled to launch sometime within a 6-day window that begins no earlier than mid-January. Firefly was chosen for the mission through NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program, which contracts companies to deliver NASA science and payloads to the surface of the moon. We're exploring the surface of the moon robotically as part of the Artemis, but using services from American companies instead of doing the mission ourselves within NASA. This is part of NASA's effort to use commercial services and public-private partnerships, explained Joel Kearns, Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate, during a mission briefing on Tuesday. He says, "We are doing this to take advantage of the technical innovation and the entrepreneurship that we see in American private industry to accomplish public goals." They go on to say that Ghost Riders in the Sky is carrying 10 NASA payloads and technology demonstrations to test conditions between Earth, the Moon, as well as on the lunar surface. NASA will use the data collected on this mission and future robotic landers to better shape our understanding of the Moon. This effort in turn will help the agency establish a sustained human presence on and around the Moon via the Artemis program. Blue Ghost's science payloads include investigations into the interactions of solar wind particles in Earth's magnetic field and analysis of lunar geology and composition of the regolith, moon dust, as well as first-of-their-kind technology demonstrations such as radiation resistance computer hardware and electrostatic system to repel harmful dust buildup on component surfaces and dust testing the abilities of GPS-like navigation system for the lunar region. The NASA payloads in this delivery represent the largest in terms of quantity manifest of NASA's payloads on the CLPS task order to date. Do I go through these items? I'm not sure because they're fairly... let's see what I can do. Maybe instead of, I won't read in their descriptions, but the 10 items that are going along with this mission in early January, it's called the NGLR, the Next Generation Lunar Retro Reflector. I'm reading it. The RAC, which is the Regolith Adherence Characterization Experiment. LEXI, the Lunar Environmental Heliospheric X-ray Imager. LISTA, the Lunar Instrumentation for Subsurface Thermal Exploration and Rapidity LISTA Experiment. Yep. And EDS, which is the Electrodynamic Dust Shield. RAD-PC, the Radiation Tolerant Computer System. LMS, the Lunar Magnetotelluric Sounder, the Lunar Magnetotelluric Sounder, LMS. LPV, the Lunar Planet VAC, right, and the SCALPSS, which is Stereo Cameras for Lunar Plume Surface Studies, right, and finally the LUGRE, which is the Lunar GNSS Receiver Experiment, which will demonstration will use Earth's global navigation satellite system for spacecraft navigation and position tracking around the moon. There it is. So if you want more information about what's happening in mid-January with SpaceX, you can read that article on space.com. All right. The last item here, I think, before we go into spaceweather.com, and bring up vMix again, is an article, a quick article actually. How quick is that? Okay, hang on, let me just check. Yep, there's only 2 articles left here that I've found. I might not worry about that one. I'll just briefly say, astronomers have detected a new 1.9 second pulsar using FAST radio telescope. Using the 500 meter aperture spherical radio telescope, or FAST in China, astronomers have discovered a new pulsar with a spin period of about 2 seconds. The newly detected pulsar, designated as PSR J1922 plus 37, was found in the direction of open cluster NGC 6791. The finding was reported in a paper published December 11. Pulsars are highly magnetized rotating neutron stars emitting a beam of electromagnetic radiation. They are usually detected in the form of short bursts of radio emissions. However, some of them are also observed via optical, X-ray and gamma ray telescopes. Now, there's more to this article. And this is actually, I'm reading this off the Space Exploration Facebook page, courtesy of Kate Green from the ASV. But yeah, astronomers have detected a new pulsar, 1.9 second pulsar in the constellation, in the cluster of NGC 6791. Alrighty, and the last thing before I disappear. Apparently the moon is much older than we thought, new research suggests, and I've got a couple of pictures here too. Let me see. vMix. This will do for the moment. Just briefly, This is courtesy of space.com, 19th of December 2024. The formation of the moon may have come harder on the heels of Earth's birth than we thought. According to a new analysis by researchers from the US, France and Germany, Earth's constant companion may have formed as early as 4.53 billion years ago, hundreds of millions of years earlier than previously estimated. If a timeline that maybe even solves other mysteries about the moon, such as why there are fewer huge impact basins than we expect and why it has less metal compared to Earth, it could even help us better understand the history of evolution of our own planet, says team leader geologist Francis Nemo of the University of California. The current leading theory of how the moon formed is predicted on the chaos of the early solar system. The sun formed around 4.6 billion years ago. At that time, it was surrounded by a disk of gas and dust left over from its own formation, coalescing into rocks that clumped together, smacked into each other, and generally contributed to an air of mayhem. Scientists think the moon formed when a large impact around the size of Mars collided with a baby Earth, which was still warm and gooey from its own formation. A huge amount of Earth's mass could have been ejected into orbit where it became together to form the moon. After its formation, the moon is thought to have hosted a global magma ocean that rapidly cooled and solidified into the lunar surface. Based on samples of moon rock that were assumed to have formed in this magma ocean, the collision is estimated to have occurred 4.35 billion years ago. But more recently, a different picture has emerged from tiny grains of lunar zircon. Zircon crystals are an excellent way to find the age of a sample because of a quirk of the way they form. When they are forming, zircon crystals incorporate uranium but strongly reject lead. Over time, the radioactive uranium in zircon decays into lead at a very well understood rate. Scientists can look at the ratios of uranium in lead in a zircon crystal and work out how long ago the zircon formed with a high level of accuracy. What's interesting is that zircon crystals from the moon have been dated at ages that are significantly higher than 4.35 billion years. One came in at 4.46 billion years, another at 4.51 billion years. These are incompatible with the global magma ocean, which would preclude the formation and survival of zircon crystals. Somehow these zircons exist. At the same time, there are a large number of lunar rocks that are 4.35 billion years old. To resolve this apparent discrepancy, Nomino and his colleagues performed analysis and modelling to show that both can be true. If the moon formed at an earlier time and underwent widespread crustal remelting 4.35 billion years ago. So when two bodies orbit each other, the path of the orbit usually isn't a nice, neat circle, but instead traces an ellipse, a property known as eccentricity. The changing proximity of two bodies to each other also produces a change in gravitational pull felt by each orbit as they move closer to and farther from one another. This constantly changing tug exerts a tidal force on each object, stretching and squishing it and warming it up through the constant friction. Back when the moon was newly formed, before it settled into a more circular orbit, the moon's orbit may have been eccentric enough to melt parts of its surface for a few tens of millions of years. This could have been around 4.35 billion years ago, neatly resolving the problem of the older zircon and the younger surface rock. This, in turn, constrains the age of the moon to between 4.43 and 4.53 billion years ago. Since the Earth is estimated to be 4.54 billion years old, that means our planet may have been best buddies with its satellite for almost its entire lifespan. The finding could help resolve some interesting mysteries. the moon has fewer impact basins than scientists expect based on how heavy they estimate the early bombardment to have been. A tidal remelting of the lunar surface could have effectively erased any such impact basins. This also places constraints on the age of the huge South Pole Aitken Basin that covers a quarter of the moon's surface. In addition, Earth has metals on its surface from planetesimals that smacked into it during the early solar system bombardment. The moon has considerably less. If the moon formed, collected some planetesimals and remelted, those metals would have sunk out of view below the lunar surface. Unless aliens came along and threw zircons all over the moon just for a giggle, in that case, all bets are off, says the article here. All right, so what's a billion years between people? But this constant debate as to how old the moon is still raging, and trying to date the age of the moon is still a happening thing. But it would suggest that the moon has been a part of the Earth formation since day one, really. And of course, without the moon orbiting the Earth, a lot of other things would be quite different on the surface. So yes, it's most interesting. All right, let's go quickly into spaceweather.com. Courtesy of spaceweather.com. The solar wind is currently at 460. Let's just change pictures here. Hang on a sec. VMix, camera 2. There we go. Get rid of that for the moment. Righto. Sorry about that. Solar wind is currently at 460 kilometres per second at a density of 2.86 protons per cubic centimetre. There are currently 4 sunspots on the surface of the sun facing us at the moment, which I do have an image of that here, so I'll just bring that up. And as I've been saying over the last few weeks, on November 26, 2024, a flood had at Stanford University damaged a number of important SDO data servers. Repairs will not be completed until 2025. As a result, all the foreseeable future daily sun images will be coming from readers of spaceweather.com. And thank you to citizen scientists. So that's the current disk of the sun, and the sunspot number is 96. The radio sun is currently at 175 solar flux units, measured at a wavelength of 10.7 centimetres. And there is a little bit of auroral activity over the South Pole as we speak. Let me bring that current picture up. So there is about a 50% chance of being able to see auroral activity low on the horizon, particularly if you're in Tasmania. But there is definitely a bit of auroral activity going on as we speak. Further to that, I think that's about it, really. They talk about the solstice weekend. They talk about a massive re-entry over Puerto Rico. It was no meteor. The article says last night in the Caribbean, skywatchers reached a bright fireball crawl across the sky, disintegrating as it fell. There's an image here caught by a all-sky camera, but I haven't got that. I think that's about it. There's nothing much more to report on out of that. The KP index. Planetary K index is currently 1.33, which is considered quiet. The 24-hour max will be 3.67, which is also considered as quiet. And as of December 20, 2024, there are 2,349 potentially hazardous asteroids, but none are on a collision course with Earth at the moment. So with that, we shall conclude the session for 2024. I want to thank everybody that's come and listened to my my bilge over all this time, and I thank you for being there and supporting us throughout the last 12 months. There's been a number of Fridays that I have had off, but I've been generally, in most cases, I try to be here most Fridays to report on the latest news coming in from the ranks of astronomy and space science and space exploration and the like. And it's a one-man show here, so you have to bear with me with getting things together. And of course, being at this time late at night, I won't apologise for the late hour. I know it's a bit late for a lot of people, and that's fine. But the Astronomical Society broadcast has been running since 1988, and Russell Ward, VK3DRW, ran it for 20 years, and it's always been at 10 o'clock on 3541. It's a published frequency, a published date, time, so I can't really go changing it as a result of what's been published in certain places. But the main reason for the 10 o'clock hour is to try and have the 80-metre propagation coverage across Australia to Western Australia, that sort of thing. So that's, I believe, to be the main reason for the 10 o'clock start. It has been talked about doing it otherwise at different times, but generally the 10 o'clock start has been the more or less accepted. Apart from all that, when Russell was doing it for the 20 years, he didn't use any video mediums. He just strictly kept the broadcast to the 80-metre frequency. But when he asked if I could take over the microphone, of course my interest in ATV was more so then than it is now, and I figured what a cool idea to be able to use the television repeater, Melbourne's VK3R TV repeater, for just having a camera stuck on me while I did the Friday night broadcast. And of course that gave me the opportunity to try and feed video through. In those days it was all very analog. When I started doing that about 12 years ago, and using bulky analog mixers, but even the analog mixers have a better control over things than the digital one. But now that we're all digital, DVB-T, 2 on the repeater, and I'm transmitting on 1255, DVB-S up to the repeater, that's the uplink, 1246 actually. It's all DVB-S2, digital, and I only transmit less than a watt of power to the input of the repeater, some 20 kilometres away. And I'm very impressed with the way the repeater works for us all, for the ATV group. So if you've ever thought of being interested in ATV, now's a good time to think about it. Having said all that, we're still here. So again, thank you everybody, you can send reports and information and Merry Christmases and whatever via the email address vk3ekh@gmail.com, and I shall reply back. Think about registering on Discord. Like I say, I provide a link to the HD stream on the qrz.com page for VK3EKH and VK3CSJ. So I certainly would like to see more Discord users next year, as opposed to YouTube. All right, I think that's about it. So at this stage, I shall go across to 80 metres for the last callback, if there's any stations still around, and then we'll conclude for the night. So this is VK3EKH, listening on 3541 for any stations wishing to check in.
VK3, VKO. VK7 AM.
All right, I had a number of stations double, and I got 5 Whiskey Alpha. I think VK3BKO was the first station I heard, then VK5 Whiskey Alpha. So, who was the other stations I missed?
VK3GL.
VK3SPX.
All right, VK3BKO, VK3BKO, VK5 Whiskey Alpha, VK3GL, VK3SPX. Any other stations?
VK7AM.
VK7 who? Who was it, that last station?
There was VK7 Alpha Nancy, I think. This is VK7 Sugar Whiskey, also been listening.
Oh, 2 VK7s. Cool. Okay, VK7 Alpha Nancy and VK7 SW. Excellent. All right. Okay, it's Brendan, isn't it? Yep. VK3BKO, VK3EKH.
VK3EKH and the Astronomy Net, VK3BKO. Well, g'day Clint, good to hear you in there, mate. And g'day everybody on the net. Looks like you're getting a list there, Clint, so I'll be quick. I'd just like to say a very big thank you, mate, for all of your information and your sources, and a big 73 to the Astronomical Society from this station. And yeah, it's been very entertaining and educational, mate, and I fully appreciate it. I'm only a very, very, well, occasional bunny when it comes to astronomy, but I do have a couple of scopes, so I do have a play, and I'm keen to learn, and I have been learning from you, my friend, and thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoy it when I can get it. Sometimes I miss it, but yeah, I got bits and pieces of it tonight. Actually, what I've done is I've actually got a screen capture going at the moment, pulling it down from YouTube and done a screen grab. So hopefully that holds and picks up the rest of it, so I can watch it at will later on and get all the bits that I missed. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, and a very hearty and heartfelt Merry Christmas to you there, Clint, and the team down there at the Astronomical Society, and also everybody that's checked in and will check in, and anyone who might be listening. I'd like to say Merry Christmas and all the best for the new year. So with that, I'll throw it back to you there, mate. And thanks again, Clint. It's thoroughly enjoyed and thoroughly appreciated.
Thanks, Brendan.
VK3EKH and the group VK3BKO.
Yeah, good on you, Brendan. VK3BKO, VK3EKH. Thank you very much for all those kind words, and all noted. And yes, note that not always there on a Friday night, and I can understand that. It's certainly not a problem. I was about to say in my little speech before that what was I going to say? Forgot already. I was distracted for a split second. I was distracted about the setting on the mixer, and that was it. But nevertheless, I was going to say that in the first 20 years when Russell, VK3DRW, Russell Ward, was conducting the ASV broadcast, like I said, he was only doing it on 80 metres at the time. He didn't complicate his broadcast with how I'm doing it. But he had a fairly dedicated group of amateurs that used to always check in. Whenever I listened into it, it wasn't every Friday night, but whenever I listened to it, there was always a fairly dedicated group of gentlemen that would call in. And over the years since I've been doing it, most of those stations have disappeared one way or another. But of course, it's been renewed with fresh interests and fresh amateurs, so I appreciate that. but it would be nice if some of those earlier stations would show up from time to time. But it's a late time. Anyway, thanks, Brendan. Good on you, mate. And that's about the only advantage about YouTube is that the video is recorded, and as soon as I stop streaming, the video is viewable again. If you wish to go through the pain of watching it. Anyway, thanks, Brendan. All right, it's Dallas, VK5 Whiskey Alpha. Have a say, mate, VK3 EKH.
I've been playing a bit of ATV for years since I've played much with it. Used to get money a lot. The same as you're uplinking with, and also some I am on Field 26 or 40. Currently watching, or was just putting up a rebroadcast for the Mid-North repeater, and a little local content on 445.5, so just been struggling with some interferers and stuff just actually there. I ordered a terrestrial decoder, but I only had satellite decoders, so getting back into it a bit, so there's been a long time. I posted it in 87 or something with 426 here in Adelaide, etc. The repeater. Anyway, I got you on YouTube first and finally just tried clicking everything there eventually. Not that it doesn't work, it's just I keep forgetting what to click on. Very, very good. You received here extremely well there, Clint, and good evening to all others. And look, those flying tin cans, the modules, I saw one of those at Smithsonian once. Since 18, the one that never took off or never went. So they're pretty big, but I imagine pretty thin too. So apparently you can always take your finger through the walls. Anyway, good night. Merry Christmas, etc., etc., etc. Catch you next time. VK5 Whiskey Alpha.
Yeah, thanks, Dallas. And I think there's another station calling in there. VK5 Whiskey Alpha, VK3 EKH returning, VK3 CSJ on the microphone. Yeah, thanks, Dallas. Look, I've been playing around with ATV for quite some time, and with the old analog days, and when the repeater was all analog, it was all good fun. I used to enjoy being involved with trying to get an ATV signal between here, or Dandenong, where I used to live, to Mount Gambier, because there were about 2 or 3 ATVers out on Mount Gambier that were transmitting on the old 426 250 frequency. And this time of the year, it was particularly good because of temperature inversion that would occur between Melbourne and Mount Gambier. And it was always such a thrill to see a weak picture embedded in the snow slowly resolving itself to a locked up picture. And then finally you could make out call signs, and then it would go off the caption card to a face, and you'd make this connection. It was a bit of a thrill, the old analog days. I do miss the snowy picture and the sync bars and all that. But still, the digital realm it's got its challenges as well. So there it is. And I agree. Those astronauts, those men that travelled into space to the moon, particularly in that lunar module. I think that's what you were referring to. How the walls, the physical walls of that lunar module were as thin as a couple of a sheet of aluminium. It was something like that. I just can't fathom the idea that they were in such a dangerous environment, and it would have only resulted in the smallest of micrometeorites to have punctured that lunar module, and they would have been in trouble. Scary thought. I think that's what you were referring to. But yes, this new mission to the moon, you can be sure they'll be dealing with spacecraft that will be a little better built than the lunar module was. Anyway, there it was. Okay. Thanks, Dallas. Thank you very much for calling in. Graham, VK3GL, and Bunyip, VK3EKH.
Yes, a very good evening to you there, Cliff. VK3EKH and the group, VK3GL. I'm running my Yates to FDA 47 tonight because the 101 is doing some FDA on 15 metres at the moment into Europe. Anyway, thanks. I just popped up tonight, Clint. I was a bit of a tail ender because it's been quite busy at work this evening. And as you know, I do try to tune in, watch, stream online, although I didn't tonight, or at least have a listen on 80 metres to the broadcast each and every week that you're there, because it coincides with my work shift, and pretty much nearly every week I can be here at the shack and listen to your broadcast unless it's terribly busy. So I've certainly enjoyed doing that this year. It's the first time that, this year was the first time that I had this sort of roster that made me permanent on a Friday night and gave me the opportunity to tune into your broadcast. So you've shared some wonderful news over the last 12 months that I've been listening. I don't profess to know as much as what you do at all about astronomy, but it's nice to hear you talk about it. It's nice to hear share some of, or for you to share some of the photographs and so on and so forth that you get along the way. And you certainly do have a great passion for it. You have for a lot of years. Ever since I've known you, you've had a good passion for looking at and seeing what's up there in the sky. So keep it up there, Clint. It's most enjoyable, and as you know, you get a reasonable number of us calling back on a Friday night to say that we have been listening, and also to pass comment about some of the things that you have raised on your session. So you know, by the pure fact that happens, you get some that's enough feedback to say, well, gee, my effort is well worthwhile, and it is, mate. So well done once again. Wish you a Merry Christmas. I'm sure we'll perhaps touch base maybe on the local repeater or something, but if I don't, between now and next Wednesday, have a great Christmas. To everyone else who is usual check-ins, have a wonderful Christmas as well, and all the best for 2025. I look forward to catching up with you all on a Friday night when Clint resumes his session again. So thanks again there, Clint. All the best, mate, and 73 for now. VK3EKH, VK3GL in Bunyip.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. VK3GL, Bunyip, VK3EKH returning. Thanks for the kind words, Gray. No problems at all. No doubt we'll catch up with you over the weekend. Over the weekend, the next 4 weeks, one way or another. And not a problem at all. Good signal from you. You're about 20 over 9 and fairly consistent. It's all right. It's the subject is ongoing as far as learning. So I'm not exactly expert at all this. I think as soon as I get my scope dome finally assembled and working, and a working telescope functional with the camera attached, and I can actually start, studying the sky from an optical point of view, I will feel like I've ticked a few boxes. But at this stage, I feel that I haven't quite finished my my studies in that area. I know a bit about radio astronomy, but the optical side of it and how telescopes work is still something I'm a little vague on. So it's the thing that I'm looking forward to getting into. Yeah, something along those lines. Anyway, all right. Thanks, Gray. It's across to Steve, VK3SPX, VK3EKH.
VK3EKH, this is VK3SPX. Clint, and yeah, you've done a great job this year, so appreciate that, and look forward to it every Friday. I hope you get your dome sorted out sometime soon. You need a bit of a help at some stage, Clint, but maybe not so much with the actual dome, but with the automation and all the other accessories and software and mechanisms you need to make it into a fully automatic thing, which I think you want to do it eventually. Quite happy to give you a hand with that. Maybe drop around and give you a hand sometime if you like, Clint. As for today's broadcast, it was sort of interesting about Pearl Young, wasn't it? There was a film recently called Hidden Figures. I don't know if you've seen that. It was about some of the women who started off as sort of human computers and ended up running actual computers, but also focusing on a woman called Katherine Johnson who computed flight trajectories, wherein the men couldn't figure out how to do it, or at least that's what it seemed like in the film. It was quite fun and quite an inspiring film. So yeah, I don't know if you've seen that. If you haven't, you should have a look. Yeah, what else? I did actually go to Smithsonian once, and the Apollo 11 command module was there, if I remember rightly. Don't think you could actually touch it, but you can get right up to it. So it was pretty cool to see something like that had been to the moon and back and what have you. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. All right, well, thanks so much, Clint. I won't keep you long. Just refresh, by the way, the date of your return. I kind of vagued out. I know you said you were away for 4 weeks, so I don't know if that's sort of inclusive or exclusive or whatever. So just let us know what the date is that you think you'll be back. All right, and apart from that, have a Merry Christmas. VK3EKH. This is VK3SPX.
No worries, Steve. VK3SPX, VK3EKH returning 24th of January. It's a